Hi, and welcome to All Things Cozy with Matt.
And Jillian.
We are a bi-weekly podcast about everything that is warm, soft, and comforting. Back in December, I was beaming with excitement over my Tru-Tone Christmas lights, the way they glow with that warm vintage charm of classic C7 and C9 bulbs with the energy efficiency of modern LEDs. Well, it turns out my enthusiasm shined a little brighter than I realized because one of our brilliant listeners, Steve, saw the light and connected All Things Cozy with the very people behind these dazzling designs. David Andorra and Sean Hunt, the founders of Tru-Tone. Welcome to All Things Cozy, Sean and David. We're so excited to have you here with us today.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us as well.
Glad to be here.
We're so delighted to have you on the show to illuminate the story behind Tru-Tone, how you set out to bring energy efficiency to that nostalgia Christmas glow without dimming its magic. But we also had another bright idea. String lights aren't just for Christmas. In fact, Tru-Tone offers lights for other holidays like Halloween, 4th of July, Easter, and that's what's around the corner for us here in April. So today we won't only be celebrating Christmas in April, which really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Christmas in April. We're going to make that happen here in All Things Cozy. We'll also be shining a light on how fresh color combinations on these classic bulbs can help light the way for the Easter Bunny, just as well as Santa's sleigh. But before we plug in, let's check in on what's making us feel cozy this week. What's making me feel cozy this week is I'm a huge fan of the Legend of Zelda series on Nintendo. And the most recent version of the game came out actually last year. It's called The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And it took 38 years, but we finally got a mainline Zelda game where you can play as the titular character. So the roles are reversed in this game. Link is captured, and Zelda takes on the role, Princess Zelda, of a legendary sorceress. She heals dark energy rifts across Hyrule with the help of her friend Tri, who's like a fairy star. I'm like unclear what Tri is. It's like a yellow thing that hovers above her and like gives advice, and it has little Triforce shards trailing it. That's unclear. But what is really clear is that it's a fun game starring Zelda, and it's because she's not combat focused like Link is with his sword. She's more puzzle based. So she uses her little wizard staff to like summon objects. You could use like a trampoline or a box or even summoning other enemies that you encounter along the way to solve different puzzles. Anything that's kind of vaguely witchy, I am down for. So I'm really excited to play as Zelda finally, but also that she is using magic to get through the world. I find very cozy and fun. So if you have a Nintendo Switch, I highly recommend checking out The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Not that Nintendo needs my help marketing, but I did find in general that I'm like, I feel like I had to stumble across this, that there wasn't as much promotion for this game relative to the other Zelda games that come out. So it's more in that classic edition of what Zelda used to feel like when it was on Super Nintendo, where you're in a top-down world and you're solving dungeon puzzles. It's not open world like Breath of the Wild. It's not this huge expansive thing. It's much more enclosed. And I also find that cozy because sometimes I'm like, I get a little tired of the endless exploring. I'm just like, put me on rails. I want to solve the puzzles and finish the game. I don't want this to take half my life to do it. So that's what's making me feel cozy is that game currently. Do either of you play video games? Is that anything you enjoy doing?
I do. Sean does. David does not play video games. But it's so interesting that you say this because the most recent thing I've been playing is actually I've been replaying A Link to the Past.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I was really craving one of those just old school top-down games, just like you described, and that's what I've been playing most recently.
Well, when you're done with that, if you want more of it, this is an extension of that. And it's actually the same map from A Link to the Past.
Wow.
Done in 3D and expanded a little bit. So there's a lot of nostalgia to even like some of the dungeons that are in that original game. You can find them on the map in ruins. Like they're there, but they're not part of your quests anymore. It's a very thoughtful design in terms of the world of Hyrule. I'm going to throw it to you, Jillian.
Well, my cozy moment began in true Jillian fashion. My phone battery was at 2%. To be fair, I had been out all day with no access to a charger, but it was a dire situation because I had tickets on my phone to an event. And so I met up with a friend at a bar before the show for some drinks and food. And we asked the bartender, who ended up being so lovely, if they had a charger, and they kindly said yes. And so when taking my phone, they saw my lock screen of my cat Snickers, and she was being her cute self. And he mentioned that he has two cats, Mortimer and Bodhi, and he immediately went into the most adorable sales pitch for the Oscar-winning film Flow, which, if you're not familiar, it's an animated film about a black cat on a fantasy-like journey to survive a flood. And he swore that one of his cats, which one of them is black, watched it in awe. So he's like, they really watched it. They were rapt attention. And he was really convincing me to watch this movie because I'd been afraid to watch it because that would be too sad. But apparently it's not. And so he also mentioned that the movie's popularity has led to the rise of black cat adoptions, which was first reported by NPR. He did a whole little investigation on it. And so people, as we know, avoid adopting black cats because of the superstitions. So it's really sweet that this movie has led to the rise in those adoptions. And we swapped pet parent pics. And so it's just a really sweet interaction and super cozy.
That is very cozy. I'm also glad to hear that there are more black cat adoptions. I mean, I've been sold since Salem on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but I'm glad other people are finally getting the memo.
Yeah, now I have to watch Flo. I mean, my cats will watch it, but he's just the biggest Flo fan, apparently. He was just so sweet. And he was like this growy bartender, but it was really sweet how he just got kind of emotional about it. He's really nice. And thank you for saving the day for my phone. Otherwise, I wouldn't get into the show.
It turns out sometimes being a mess and having your phone at 2% while out in public, it can pay off.
Yeah, being a mess is my tagline.
I love Flo. That was a great movie. It's one of those movies that has so many layers and meanings behind all the different people the animals represent and the situations they find themselves in. There's a lot to unwrap there. I highly recommend folks watch that if you have the chance. I think it's streaming on HBO right now.
We've seen it too, and we're also big animal lovers. And just to like put you at ease, we'll cry at the drop of a hat when it comes to any animal.
Yeah, no, that's me.
And there's definitely just enough of that to make you feel extra empathy for it, but things do work out.
Are you familiar with the website, doesthedogdie.com?
Yes, we are familiar, and we frequently will check it before watching.
Okay, I look at it before I watch anything.
Yeah, also good news for us because we actually unintentionally adopted 2 black cats that just moved into our backyard, wild stray cats, and we started caring for them. I'm very allergic to cats, but I also am a sucker for animals, so.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations.
The cat distribution system is working yet again. They have found you. How about you, David? What's making you feel cozy this week?
As a busy business owner, it's hard to find moments of cozy, but I think that my Jeffrey, the giraffe, starts making me cozy in the most literal sense.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Also, in the whole nostalgia of it. I think in a general way, I always feel cozy when the lighting is nice and warm.
Yes, absolutely.
That's something you don't find these days as much.
No,
it's kind of shocking. It does also feel aggressive when I walk into some places and there's a lot of overhead lighting, which I really try to avoid that in general. But if there's going to be overhead lighting, if it's warm, that's fine. But some people, they just live in almost like an office space.
It's the really bright, stark, cool color temperature lighting.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And it's aggressive and it feels like it's trying to actively get me to escape the space as fast as possible. So I agree with you. Lighting is so important, especially towards creating a cozy atmosphere.
It's like when you're checking out at Target in the self-checkout and you look up and you see yourself in the video and who's that? Who's Gollum? Who's that? That's how I feel like when I walk into bad lighting or in the bathroom and you have terrible fluorescent lighting, you look in the mirror oh. So soft lighting does a lot of favors too.
Yes, definitely. Sean, how about you? What's making you feel cozy this week?
We moved here to Utah about 2 years ago, and part of the culture here in northern Utah is skiing. We are 30 minutes from 2 world-class ski resorts. And something that I have always found attractive about skiing is the whole concept of après-ski. Are you guys familiar with this?
No.
Après-ski is a term used for what you do after a day of skiing, and it generally conjures up images of hanging out at the lodge in front of the fireplace with your cocktails in your long johns, all of that. And I've always been attracted to that concept. I don't know that the reality of it ever really lives up to the idea, but I just love the whole concept of après-ski.
So do I, now that I know what it is. Thank you for that.
He could probably do an entire cozy podcast on
100%. I think you've just created a whole episode for us. We appreciate that.
Let's call up some resorts.
My husband and I were in Vancouver recently, and we went up to one of their mountains, and they had a whole Santa's Village set up, and people were snowboarding and skiing and actually doing something with their time there. And we just jumped to that. We went right to the lodge and we just had hot toddies and we were lounging. But I think you're right. When you go into it, sometimes there's that feeling of I didn't earn this. You know what I mean?
I'm fine with skipping the line. I don't need to earn anything. Give me to the après-ski. No skiing for me.
Yes, it feels very much like a reward for the work you put in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Roller skating or anything else where you're bound up in a bunch of gear and then you've had a lot of fun, but with a slight bit of discomfort, and then you get to release yourself from
Right.
whatever that gear is that you've got on, and that's certainly a part of it.
1,000%.
It's fun.
You're in a great area for those sorts of lodges and bars and places like that. So take advantage of it 100%. Cozy fireplaces, warm drinks. That's a great vibe.
And congratulations on the move.
Thank you.
Were you always located in Utah, or is that a more recent change?
So it's kind of happenstance, really, like not some long range plan that we would be here in Utah. I was born and raised in Detroit and spent most of my adult life in Chicago.
I was born in Seattle, but I lived most of my childhood here in Utah, in southern Utah, actually. But we both lived most of our adult lives in Chicago. I moved there right after college, and David moved there for college. So we were living there. And when we first got together, David worked a lot in, I would say, production design is really the best way to describe it. He did a wide variety of creative work.
Themed spaces, production design for special events. I did a lot of work for that. Things for museums, parade floats, all over the place. So the Christmas lights that I was always fond of were things that I was using, incandescent Christmas lights, were using in projects all the time, and was always looking for these kinds of lights in the stores and as LEDs took over.
Yeah. So basically, the way that Tru-Tone came about was because it was a product that we had been looking for. David especially had been looking for years. I remember every Christmas, earlier and earlier each year, when the light display would show up at Home Depot or wherever, we would go and have a look and see what was there. And it was always the same stuff or another variation on the same colored diodes and stuff. So we didn't understand why nobody was doing this. Like, we understood that it was possible.
All of this leads to, we sold our place in Chicago. Tru-Tone started when we were living in my mom's basement in northern Michigan, which was just supposed to be a bit of a retreat and helping my mother tidy up this giant house that she was living in. It was never really designed to be like a business. It was started because I really wanted these lights. I had some experience with manufacturing, wanted for someone else to make them, noticed that the components that would be required to make them were coming down in price enough to where, while expensive, they were in line with the most expensive other Christmas lights that were out there. So we had some made. Obviously, there's manufacturing minimums, and marketed the rest of them. And the popularity of them made them disappear in a couple of weeks with just an incredible amount of enthusiasm for more.
Yeah, it became very apparent very quickly that there was a much larger demand for this than we ever imagined.
And certainly, like, setting up shop in my mom's basement in rural forest, northern Michigan, is not conducive to running or starting a business. And so as we were growing, we needed help. I mean, literally, we were starting all of this off by filling orders in the basement, pulling them on a wagon through the snow to the UPS truck each day.
Which is also very Christmassy and
I was
cozy,
going
by
to
the
say, we
way.
need to make this into a Hallmark movie. Let's pitch it now. I would absolutely watch it. I think that is the best kind of business where the owners or owner find a topic or something that they love and notice that there is something lacking and take advantage of that space. So they're already passionate about it. Like, there's something missing from this. I can fill it and I can turn it into something amazing and also enjoy it along with the fan base, because you are a fan of this yourselves, which is so special.
As I mentioned, we came to Tru-Tone lights because I was looking for Christmas lights that captured the nostalgia of a bygone era, but didn't get disconcertingly hot. Because that was always a thing with some of these other incandescent larger bulbs, is that they burn really hot. If you put them on a tree or any kind of interior, especially in Los Angeles where it's not cold, you're like, am I going to burn my house down? And then the other thing too is I had been getting Target brand versions of those, mostly that was the only place I was able to find them. And they always died on me after 1 year. I would be lucky if I would get 2 years of use out of those lights, and they would burn out, and that would be the end of that. So we were talking to our friends Dave and Alonzo from the podcast Linoleum Knife, and they're huge Christmas fiends. And they were mentioning that they were slowly moving all of their C7 bulbs to Tru-Tone. And we're like, what's Tru-Tone? Well, it's that classic look of Christmas lights, but they're LED. So they're cool and they're more energy efficient. And they actually, more importantly, they have the same glow that they should have had all along. Because sometimes, too, with these more modern updates, they don't have the right color. The color's just a little bit off. I know that Tru-Tone began, as you mentioned, David, just a little bit earlier, as like that brilliant idea of something that you were searching for in your creative works. Like you were using lots of lights. You were like, why isn't this here? I want it. Surely more people want it. And your hunch was correct. Like we were all out there searching for it. Were there any other details about what inspired you to start the company and the mission that drives your work forward?
Well, I can provide a little brief history on Christmas lights as we know them here in the US.
Yes, please. I love talking about decorations.
So, Christmas lights used to be something that, like a lot of products made here in the United States, the Christmas lights that we're replicating, these old fashioned style colored painted bulbs, have gone through a lot of different styles, but were mostly, probably for most of history, made here domestically. And when things started to shift in the late 70s, 80s overseas, part of the other things that were happening around that time is that LED technology was starting to become more prominent.
And the combination of those two things really changed the appearance of Christmas lights because of a couple of things. The place where almost all light bulbs are manufactured now in China, they're not people who celebrate Christmas for the most part. It's not an inherent part of their culture. And LEDs are cheaper. They come in colored diodes. You get these like bright, intense, very saturated colors. And that is what these manufacturers started making. And that is why that's what we see at the stores. But this idea of using a warm light source and then painting a bulb is very old fashioned and outdated. You get these kind of more washed out colors and you get that warm glow, but the color isn't as intense. And I think there's no real inherent understanding of that with these manufacturers. They don't understand why you would prefer that over a bright, saturated colored diode. Since manufacturing has entirely shifted over there, that's why these kind of lights disappeared from the world for a while.
Even to this day, we struggle with that very concept with our manufacturing partners, just getting them to understand the aesthetic. When you don't recognize a color is slightly wrong, they don't know when it was right. So even though you've given them very specific instructions, things very easily drift in the wrong direction.
In a more general sense regarding Christmas decorations, I think that there used to be a lot more effort and thought. There was a lot more homemade things. You couldn't go to the store and buy a giant inflatable and stick it on your lawn. If you wanted like lawn decorations, you would paint a piece of plywood and cut it out and add lights to the edges of it. It was all very like homemade.
Well, for Christmas, there's really like no more nostalgic holiday, I don't think, ever. So when your holiday decorations start becoming things you buy at the big box stores that are disposable and aren't something that's going to be passed down, you lose a lot of that inherent nostalgia.
In Christmas, it's so impactful for children. We're always looking for those decorations that were around in those formative years, things that we saw like our grandparents use, and that starts to really feel like the holiday. And so having access to lights like these, just the light that they create, is so moving actually, because it connects you back with those memories of those times and those people. You mentioned the technology, right? With the LED diodes, it's my understanding that, like you mentioned, the light that's different colors, the diode is that color. If it's green, it's a really intense green. It's like the most green you could possibly imagine coming out of the light. And there's really nothing stopping that. Oftentimes the color is very cold. It's not a warm LED. They can be very blue and bright. But it seems like there have been a lot more access to warmer LEDs that do create almost indistinguishable color to like an incandescent bulb. So to create that for the Christmas bulbs, is it a matter of not using the color diode, but using the warm white and then having
Exactly.
a casement that's color that
Yeah.
that produces that light?
So certainly our idea to create this isn't novel, and it's probably one among dozens of people who wished that someone would make it, understood how you would make it. And essentially, we're replicating the same light bulb with one simple change, and that's swapping a tungsten filament with a warm white LED filament, which is really just a tiny array of diodes in a strip. And that's what's inside all of our light bulbs.
In addition to that sort of technological side of creating these, because that's actually pretty, as David said, a pretty simple approach and seems kind of obvious. David's background in design, and especially his experience with vintage style design, I think really was the second half of this project, because if you're not somebody who immediately understands the difference between what you're going to get with a colored diode and a warm white diode that's got a colored bulb over it, then you need a whole package to wrap it up in to sort of explain that this is nostalgic and warm and cozy. And so the design approach is also a huge part of Tru-Tone because it's all very authentic and vintage inspired. We get a lot of inspiration from old advertisements and packaging design and all of that. And all of that really helps wrap up the product itself in a really nice vintage
It's
package.
essentially impossible to illustrate what a lit light bulb looks like in any kind of print or video image. It's nice to know that all of our lights look so much more amazing in person than they do online, but trying to convey what they do look like through an image is constantly a challenge. And as Sean pointed out, a big reason why we have all of these associated graphics and why those are important to convey exactly what they are.
And your website is one of the more beautiful websites.
Yeah, I was going to say, I tip my hat to whoever designed that.
I think a lot of people think that we're a big company, especially people who have only recently found us, but we're so small. Really, at the core, you're looking at the company here. We've had to hire people to help us who are super important, but we're still very, very small. I'm the person who's doing all the product design,
All of the package
all the
design,
package
all of the
design,
advertising design,
all the websites.
everything.
And it's maybe growing to be a little bit too much, but yeah, it's really homespun. And I think a big part of that, which sets us apart is from some bigger companies, is I genuinely care obsessively about all of these little details because I genuinely want the products that we're creating. I recognize the little details that other people are looking for in these products and care very much about trying to achieve those so that I'm happy, so that I'm making something that I want.
This is the kind of thing I think to be successful, you do need that eye for detail and really looking for exactly the right tone and light that's giving off. The technology shift is that simple addition of the warm LED, but there's so much more to it in terms of all the fine details in the correct color usage, right? Like I'm sure even the material that you're using for the bulb itself, all those things come into play in terms of creating what you've been searching for and haven't been able to find. And in terms of like looking at the market out there, like you are the number one for finding these sorts of bulbs. Every year I buy another string, slowly adding to my collection here.
Thank you. I was just going to add to what you're saying there that I think part of the reason for that is that there's not many fans of this aesthetic that are in a role to make those kinds of choices. It seems that in my own limited experience in this industry, I don't see that sort of level of enthusiasm and I don't know if it's education is the right word, but experience with all of these kinds of details guiding that. In fact, most of what I see is the Asian countries producing these, guiding the direction of this, providing a catalog to the Western businesses to say, here are the products we designed. So of course they're not coming from our
perspective.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too, even thinking about like the history of Christmas, like the way that lights have evolved. I remember when I was in high school or middle school, that was the beginning of the icicle lights thing that was happening. And there's all these little different trends that happen with Christmas lights. We try new things, either they stick or they don't. I mean, you mentioned a few things about how the light industry has changed. Are there any other thoughts you have around like trends you've noticed about the holiday decor industry, like shifts that you've seen happening?
Sure. There's like two things that I've seen. Anyone who's been on YouTube can recognize this, where people are putting together really elaborate displays on their front of their house on the front lawn, programmed to music, and you pull up and dial into the radio station, and it's all very high tech. And that's awesome. I mean, we all love those, but they're a completely different aesthetic. You end up with this like concert aesthetic going on front of the house, and it's a pretty big departure from where things were before programmable technology. I also think that even earlier than that, there was a shift from colored lighting to all white lights that happened for a long time and is still going strong in a lot of places. You know, with all things coming and going, I've definitely seen since we've started in business, return to colored lights and really a return to color in general. And I think in the last year, I've seen how many different articles on, I would have said kitsch, but I think some people are just calling it ugly Christmas.
That's rude.
But as an endearing term, I totally get it.
It feels festive, right? It's so endearing and fun and cute. And it's not about looking chic. It's about having fun and celebrating the holiday with your family. And that's what I feel like the color lights bring out. Where I know there are parts of my family growing up that leaned fully into the white light somewhere around the 2000s because that was classy.
Yeah.
In the Midwest, we love to say things are classy. So like the white lights are classy.
I remember that with my mom. Like we had the big colorful lights that we make as on our tree, and tied up with my fond memories of that tree are also terrible fears that the house was going to catch on fire. You were not allowed to leave the room without unplugging the tree. You had to always make sure the tree had water. And of course, when you're decorating the tree, you're reaching in to hang the ornaments and constantly burning your arm
Mm.
on those dang lights. But like all of those memories are all sort of part of what I remember about that.
Yeah.
I remember my mom thinking though that she really wanted to have a classy tree with the white lights. She lost out on that.
I mean, this really speaks to like the core of why I think we've been so popular and successful. And it's all about nostalgia. It's all about people remembering what Christmas was like in their childhood, just like you described and just like David described, feeling a yearning to get back to that, to like recapture those moments of the magic of Christmas of your childhood.
And sometimes that's not classy. Sometimes it's
Yes,
like
exactly.
8 generations of things that people made that are now on your tree because that has special meaning to it.
1000%. Yeah.
I think it's also more of a maximalist trend too. Like people want to
Maximalist,
live,
yes.
yeah, I want to live out loud a little bit more and just celebrate more. And so that is also extended to other holidays. And I've seen a lot more decorations, and I decorate for everything, whether big or small. And so, how did you delve into decorations for, let's say, Easter or 4th of July? How'd that come about? And what is the design process for like that?
I just want to add one more thing to white lights versus colored lights. In my own observations, white lights have become ubiquitous for year-round establishments. You see them everywhere. You see them at
Mhm.
cafes, etc. And so there's a little bit less distinction between a Christmas lighting or other holiday festive lighting versus what you might find year-round.
Yeah, I think every main street has those fairy lights on the trees.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, like
Yeah.
dangling over the
You
street.
can't escape them.
100%. And hats off to all these establishments. Their patios look so cute.
Right. I think, yes.
But also, you're right. Like it has normalized the white light. And even folks in their backyard have year-round white lights, and they look great. And don't stop doing that. But yeah, it doesn't give a Christmas vibe anymore when it's something that we're
Year round.
soaking in all the time, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Not to hate on white lights, but the elevator music is music to ignore. And sometimes I think they lost their charm a little bit.
Yeah.
That magic that they initially had.
They're not as novel. I
Yeah.
100% agree. Like, let's have more of them. I love them. I love anyone who's going to make an effort to decorate. Yeah, yes, like 100% there. But when you're trying to do a celebration, I think 100% bring in color, especially if you're trying to get a retro vibe. White lights, I don't think, are the best way to do that.
Yeah, it's so nice to see color come back.
Across the board, really.
Yeah, every holiday.
To your question about other holidays, I would say the first impetus for us, like purposefully reaching beyond Christmas, is that there are a lot of challenges with running a seasonal business. It's hard when like all of your business happens in just 2 short months and then nothing for the rest of the year. So we definitely wanted to expand and help our customers expand. I would say probably the first way this started happening is just customers themselves buying our lights and using them in other ways. One of the things that we do, I think that has helped this, is that the way that you buy lights from us is actually really super customizable. You can buy an entire box of one color of bulbs. So if you want only white and red bulbs, then you can have only white and red bulbs. From there, the possibilities are endless. If you're somebody who's really into Halloween, I would say even in our very first Halloween that we were actually open and selling bulbs, we had people reaching out and being like, can I get orange and purple bulbs? And like, of course, you can get orange and purple bulbs. So that I think is where things started.
Second to Christmas, what's the best selling holiday scheme?
I would say maybe Halloween. Halloween is actually my birthday and it's my favorite holiday. Sorry, Christmas. Love Christmas. Love Halloween.
It's a safe space. It's my favorite too.
Thank you. And this year is actually our first, gosh, the number of ideas and things that we have in the pipeline is just never ending. And this is the first year that we actually have a couple of Halloween products that will hit our site.
Because I noticed the trend too of folks just having a tree all year round, maybe a little one, and just decorating like the Halloween tree or the Easter tree. And I love that the tree is extended to all seasons. It doesn't have to be Christmas oriented, and you can just have your holiday tree, which is really special.
Yeah, that's so fun.
So the lights, they look great on a Christmas tree or around a doorway or a window, but we've discovered many people enjoy having the lights used in their home all year round in really casual ways, just sitting on top of a dresser or wrapped around some weird statuary that they have in the backyard or some other thing, just because they like having the happy, good feelings that come with those lights year round.
And our bulbs all are like standard bulbs that have been around forever. The bases are the same. So there are a lot of household fixtures that have the right socket size. So people can just use our bulbs in their chandelier or their light fixture or their lamp or whatever they have in their house.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I think a lot of folks imagine holiday lights, and I was imagining when I was growing up, parents stringing them on the house, and it's this big ordeal, or you have to have a huge space. But to your point, yeah, you can put them anywhere, small space or big space, and everyone deserves to have a little pep in their home and a little magic in their home. So yeah, I love that you said that because my partner and I lived in a very tiny apartment for almost 10 years, and so we try and find any nook and cranny to get a little string of lights, and it just changed the whole vibe of the apartment, and it's so special. So the fact that you give that joy to folks, you can't beat it. What a wonderful business to be in.
I think it's
Thanks.
definitely, of all of the things I've ever done in my life, the thing that has brought the most joy to the most people. And I'm so grateful and happy for that.
It truly is
Yeah.
the best part of running the business. And even from the very beginning, we started getting just the nicest, warmest letters from people.
So much
Saying-
emotion.
Yeah, so much like
Oh.
people who were like really moved by what we're doing, people who like had missed this thing from their life for so many years and suddenly got it back. And that is just the best.
Yeah, I think I have a Mother's Day gift. Yeah, because my mom's been missing those lights. And yeah, to your point, it just brings up so many fond, special memories that now I can recreate. So yeah, what a gift.
And spin into different seasons too, right? It's such a retro vibe for Christmas, but what a fun way to spin it into different holidays. Like, what if we had C7s for Halloween? You're right, Halloween has become a light holiday. Slowly over time, people were like, I want a Halloween tree. I fell into the bandwagon. Suddenly I have lights around my windows that are like the candy corn lights that have like different tones on them.
Yeah.
And slowly we all started buying lights for Halloween. I'm not mad about it, but also it's fun to imagine other holidays. And Easter is a fun one that's coming up because these bulbs have an egg shape. So there's a natural connection there. And also I love like when I'm looking at the Easter lights, there's such a bright, wonderful teal and pink, these nice bright like mod colors that have that retro vibe, but they are very spring forward and it's very cute.
Thank you. We made a fun decoration for one of our advertisements, which we'll probably reuse again shortly, with just an Easter basket, like an old retro plastic Easter
Wicker,
basket
yeah, plastic.
and with like the plastic grass, and then just filled it with some of those pastel shades of the light bulbs in it. And they just look like Easter
Glowing
eggs
Easter
or
eggs,
candy or
yes.
something. It looks really fun. And another project, taking a paper egg crate and putting C9 bulbs in all of them as though they're eggs. And these kinds of things we put together just for advertisement, that one in particular, and we'll receive photos from some of our customers who just recreate the thing as a decoration in their home.
I kind of needed that too now. It's like, and it's also cool because you couldn't do that before with the really hot bulbs
No.
because like that Easter grass would be melting and you'd be inhaling whatever toxic fumes are coming into the air.
One of the things that we try to like share in our marketing is that yes, you get all of the retro nostalgic charm, but with all these new options for using them in ways that you wouldn't feel safe doing with the originals.
One of the things that we have on our website that we haven't fleshed out as much as we'd like to is our decoration guide. So we have sort of like homemade projects you can do with our lights. And one of the things we did early on was cut out little felt flowers and you put the light through and then your bulb is like the center of a cute little like spring flower. And since the cords are this twisted two-tone green, you have this vine with flowers growing on it. And that started as just a like DIY project. And immediately we had people reaching out like, I love this, but I don't have the time to do it myself, or I don't want to do it myself. You should just sell us these. And so we started doing that. We now have these little felt flower accessories that you can add to your bulbs for springtime or whenever really. That's such a fun Eastery thing. And again, it's something that you would not have been able to do with incandescent bulbs. You would have burned or melted that felt pretty quick.
And that brings it back full circle to going back to the way decorations used to be more homemade. And you're bringing that back with not only just the nostalgic light, but also these crafts that can go along with that. So people can put their own spin on it.
Oh my gosh. The number of vintage resources we have from some of these original companies, including GE, is just such an incredible wealth of inspiration for us. And the amount of decoration ideas that have been published in the last history of all of these Christmas lights is just a giant pool of things that we hope to also share and add to.
I think our listeners, the wheels will be turning, all the creative
Yeah.
ways they love to decorate, and they share photos in our Facebook group. And it's so special to see all the things that they come up with, and the fact that you're encouraging that creativity. And I mean, the marketing ideas, I imagine it just blows up on Instagram, like how Instagrammable these moments are. A lot of fun.
Well, thank you for illuminating us on your craft, the Christmas decoration industry, and how we can use string lights for other holidays. Where can our listeners catch up with Tru-Tone, find you on social media? Where should they go if they want to connect with Tru-Tone?
Well, of course, our website, Tru-Tone.com, that's TRU-TONE.com. And then we're pretty active on Instagram, also on Facebook. We should be more active on TikTok, but we are there. You can also find us on YouTube and Reddit and pretty much anywhere else if you just Google Tru-Tone.
Our Instagram and Facebook are both just Tru-Tone bulbs without any hyphen or punctuation.
Yeah, definitely check out their website, even just to check out how beautifully crafted it is. It says immaculate retro vibes.
Chef's kiss.
Thank you, Sean and David, so much for taking the time to join us. We really loved chatting with you and thinking about using these sorts of lights, not just for Christmas, which we love, but also for all seasons. So thank you again, and have a wonderful holiday, every holiday between now and Christmas.
Thank you.
Matt and Jillian.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
It
much.
was so
Yeah,
lovely.
thank you.
Bye.
That was so fun. They are lovely.
Yes. Well, David and Sean's business has left us feeling inspired and reminds us to mention a partnership of our own with Cozy Earth.
Well, in March, we mentioned how the alpaca throw and Luxe bath towels they sent us made us feel cozy and luxurious at the same time. But as we mentioned then, Cozy Earth is particularly known for their bamboo sheet set.
Yes. And getting those is an investment in sleep that restores, refreshes, and revitalizes. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets are the softest, coolest, most luxurious sheets you'll ever own. And while you're leveling up your bedsheet game, why not also upgrade your sleepwear? Cozy Earth's bamboo pajamas are lightweight yet cozy and are designed to help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer.
And they're not pressing snooze on making sure your purchase is risk-free. Take 100 nights to decide if they're right for you with their sleep trial. Plus, every Cozy Earth bedding and bath product comes with a 10-year warranty.
Prioritize sleep, prioritize you, because great days start with better nights. To transform your nights with Cozy Earth's luxuriously soft, temperature-regulating sleep essentials, visit CozyEarth.com and use our exclusive code, ALLTHINGS, for 40% off best-selling sheets, towels, pajamas, throw blankets, and more. And if you do get a post-purchase survey, let them know you heard about Cozy Earth right here on All Things Cozy podcast. We'll also add the link to CozyEarth.com and our code for 40% off to our show notes for your shopping convenience.
When you sleep well, you live well. Sleep better with Cozy Earth.
Before we hop off like the Easter Bunny, we do have a candle review for you. And this week, we wanted to keep it springy and fresh. So I am burning Garden Strawberries by Goose Creek Candle. This is part of their Peter Rabbit series, where they have different scented candles based on the beloved book series. And the notes for this scent are fresh strawberries, garden greens, pink raspberries, and sugar. I heard a lot of reviews on the website saying this smells just like fresh strawberries, like I'm out in the garden. I won't pretend to know what that smells like. I'm not much of a gardener, so I don't know. Although I did find some wild strawberries at my house once. I was very excited about that. The scent to me, Jillian, it smells like, do you remember those candies that older people always had that were wrapped up and they looked like a strawberry, the foil outside of them?
Yeah, like dentist waiting room or something.
Yes,
Like
and
a
they were
dentist,
called,
actually. It probably wouldn't be dentist.
well, maybe
Some
it's part
waiting
of their
room.
business plan. It's their nefarious plot to fill more of your cavities. No, I think they're called strawberry bonbons, which to this day, I still don't really know what a bonbon is. I feel like that word is really thrown around, or those words. There's two of them. Whatever that candy was, it smells like that candy, which I find to be pleasant, but I do find it to be sort of like an artificial strawberry scent. Then again, how do you capture a really grassy, fresh strawberry scent? Like, I think it's definitely giving strawberry. It's like a sweet strawberry scent.
Even if it's a little artificial, I think the design on the candle makes up for it. It's this adorable Peter Rabbit scene. So they really leaned into it.
Yeah, it's Peter Rabbit, and I'm sorry I'm not as well versed in those books as I should be, but I think it's Peter Rabbit and his mom.
I think it's the mom.
They're sharing a strawberry that's shaped like a heart. It's really cute, and there's beautiful hand-drawn strawberries in a vine, like all around the outside in the garden, and this beautiful pink base. It's a very pretty candle,
Yeah.
and I would give this honestly a wick up because even though it's not necessarily my preference for that kind of sweet scent, it is nailing what it advertised it would do. I think I was maybe hoping a little against the odds that it would have a bit more of a gardeny, like, it says garden greens in the notes, and I thought maybe it would have more of that leafy scent to it.
Mm.
But it's more just leaning into that kind of classic sweet strawberry scent that you come to know from like a milkshake or a strawberry bonbon. So if you're in the market for that, if that's something you really like, it is light and airy. It's not overwhelming. It has a good throw without feeling like it's jamming itself down your throat. So I will give it credit. It's not, when I say sweet, it's not sweet in the sense of like when I was burning that lemongrass candle the other week and I felt like I was being assaulted. This has much more like airiness to it. It's not so overbearing. And I think it will fill your space up with a light scent of strawberries without it being like, wow, this person is melting 30 strawberry bonbons and they need help.
I'm also curious about the blueberry jam. I might check that out because I don't think I've ever had a blueberry candle before.
That's another candle in this Peter Rabbit series that they have.
Yeah.
It reminds me of maybe we should review this one, but there's A24, the film production company, sells in the movie Heretic, starring Hugh Grant as a serial killer. There's a scene with a scented blueberry pie candle, and they sell the candle on their website.
That's fun.
Maybe for Halloween, we'll go into that one.
No, we lock it down now.
I better get that before this episode drops so our listeners don't buy them all out. I know you all want to bring that heretic swag to your homes. Anyway, so yeah, I would say, again, a wick up. It's a good candle. If this is what you're looking for, you will get a solid strawberry candy smell out of this one, if you like that. Well, I am so excited again. Whenever we get to have the folks who really make our holiday special and bring that cozy vibe, Steve, thank you for connecting us. It is always such a lovely opportunity when people donate their time to us and our listeners to let us a little bit in on how they make those cozy experiences and products that help us make our holidays warmer and more enjoyable. And we really hope that some of their ideas for spring lighting or different spins on holidays help inspire you to bring some of that nostalgic glow to your Easter and, of course, to your Christmas or whatever holidays that you celebrate and want to bring in some of that festive lighting into it.
Yeah, I'm already inspired. A lot of ideas are hopping through my mind for Easter. And like I said to them in our discussion, I really enjoy seeing all of our listeners' decorations. And please join the Facebook group to share your decorations, whether it's for Easter or beyond. It's one of my favorite things to see when I sign into the group.
Yes, and you can do that by checking us out on social media. We are at All Things Cozy Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and at All Things Cozy on Blue Sky. And you can support our Patreon at patreon.com/allthingscozy, where you can join our book club or sign up at a lower level even just to get a sticker and magnet to show that you listen to the coziest podcast out there. One more thing about, while we're going a little long in the buck teeth, trying to clumsily extend a rabbit metaphor, we would love more reviews wherever you listen to this podcast to help other people find the show. We do not have a 2025 review anywhere. We've been making episodes in 2025, so if any of you listeners are out there and you've never reviewed our show where you listen to it, please drop a little bit of love there. It helps people find the show. We would love to see that updated. It would
A bunny hop in our step.
put a bunny hop on our step. That's right. It would make us chirp like some freshly born chicks. You're probably sick of us by now, so you can take a break and we'll be back in your ears, your big long bunny ears, in a couple more weeks. Until next time,
Stay cozy.